Well, hello and welcome everyone to this past Marathon Summit Solutions Preview. We're excited you could join us today. This past marathon features an overview of the industry solutions you will see at Past Summit 2018. And in these sessions at just 15 minutes each, you'll hear from leading experts from top vendors such as WhereScape, Cozy Rock, and DB Pro. My name is Chris Yates. I'm a director at large for PASS and Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I have a few introductory slides before I hand over the reins to our first presenter, Douglas Barrett. If at any time you require technical assistance, please use the question pane located on the right side of your screen and someone will assist you. This pane is also where you may ask any questions, so feel free to enter your questions at any time, and once we get to the Q&A portion of the session, I'll read those questions out loud to the speaker. You are able to zoom in on the presentation content by using the zoom button located on the top of the presentation window. And please note that there will be a short evaluation at the end of the session. This will be a pop-up after the webinar ends in your web browser. And since this is a pilot event, I'm very excited about this. Your feedback is really important to us for future events, so please take a moment to complete it. I do want to say thank you to our presenting sponsors. This past marathon would not be possible without their support. If you would like to learn more about them and their solutions, please visit the sponsors page on the Past Marathon website. And I would also like to remind you that the prices for Past Summit are increasing tomorrow by $200. So use the code Marathon to save $100 before the price bump, and we hope to see you at this year's Past Summit. Douglas Barrett is a senior solutions specialist for WhereScape and has more than 20 years of experience helping organizations build data warehouses using Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft Azure SQL, Microsoft Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and other platforms. So without further ado, here's Douglas with keeping pace with the speed of business.
Hello. Yes, thanks for that, Chris. I've been working in data warehousing for a long time, as you can see. I have worked for banks, insurance companies, led projects at universities, credit unions, all sorts. And so I think I know what makes a project successful in data warehousing. And right now I'm working for WhereScape. WhereScape is a software company. We build data warehouse automation software. So really the key to successful data warehouse projects is speed. We need to be agile, and to be agile, we need to be fast in our development practices. Basically, a data warehouse project, we need to collaborate with the business. The business knows what they want to do, what data they need, what answers that they need from the data, but they don't know what data they have to work with. They don't know the quality of the data. They don't know what issues they're going to have with the data, what data is available. So we need to work to a shared understanding of what's possible with the data that's available. And the best way of doing that is with an agile, iterative, collaborative project where IT, who's driving the keyboard, and the business are working together to get that shared understanding. And one of the key things in working with a business is that we do need to make those iterations fast. We can't just stand up for 5 minutes at the beginning of the day, but still take 3 months to deliver an iteration in order to maintain that engagement with the business. We need speed in order to maintain that engagement with the business. We need to have quick iterative cycles to flesh out what's possible with the data in conjunction with the business. And we believe that speed requires automation. We want to automate as much of the doing of building the data warehouse as possible. And just leave the thinking to the people and leave the actual creation of code, the creation of tables and patterns, leave that to software. That can be automated as much as possible. And the traditional ways of building a data warehouse are just too slow. And it's not just the development process that needs to be quick and agile. The projects are ongoing. The agility needs to be ongoing. So we need to build a solution that is enterprise strength, but we build it in an agile fashion. We build it in this collaborative way, but we need to build it so that it can continue being evolved and changed. The main problem is that you answer one question to the business, it generates 5 more questions. And the business is going to be asking questions like customer profitability, who's our profitable customers, why are they profitable, what happens when we increase a price, decrease a price, add a fee, look for operational efficiencies. Those are the questions that the business is really interested in asking. And immediately you answer one, then you need to answer more. So the best way of answering that is to provide sort of a general purpose data warehouse, which provides as much of that related data as possible to get the right data to the right people at the right time in the right format, and let the business do a lot of that work in searching for that data amongst a nice curated data set. If we don't have a data warehouse, those questions have to be answered by some guy scurrying off to a data lake or source systems, scratching around trying to find the data that's relevant to that answer and coming back, and it's a project. And then the 5 more questions that lead on from answering that question, 5 more projects, and they could take a few weeks each. There's a never-ending source of issue, and then we need to reuse it. So a data warehouse solves that problem. It gets the right data, unlocks value from the data, and what we need to do is be able to work with the business as we build that out, and then ongoing support of that solution. Now, building a data warehouse, well, it's had its issues over the history of data warehousing. There's a lot of project failures. And as analysts and people have tried to figure out why there's been such a high rate of failure, well, number one, building a data warehouse is unique. You are constrained by what data you have available. But number two, the way that it's been built, the tools that we've used to build data warehouses traditionally have been very inflexible. And it's this inflexibility that causes the problems. Sure, data quality is a big issue with building a data warehouse, but not being able to adjust the project during the development to react to a better understanding of that data and a better understanding of the requirements is really what causes these projects to fail, because using a traditional approach, it's a long way down the track that we find out that the project's failed, that we can't deliver the project because of data quality. Instead of failing fast or being able to reprioritize the project or change the project on the fly, which are characteristics of agility. And the reason why it's been tricky to be agile in data warehousing is the traditional set of tools are very manually intensive. If I'm building using an ETL tool or SQL, there's usually a lot of development effort that goes into building a data warehouse. And it's very common for people want to automate bits of it. But when you automate just a bit of it, you're only solving a part of the problem. There's still a larger project that we need to figure out. So the reason why IT hasn't traditionally been able to apply Agile successfully to data warehousing is because of the tools that they're using. Really, we need to try and automate as much of the development effort as possible so that we can concentrate on this collaboration, concentrate on this better understanding of the data and of the requirements as they apply. As we have a look at a traditional set of tools that are used to build a data warehouse, we sort of lay them out. We can lay them out in this, what we call the staircase of doom, which is we start with requirements down on the bottom left there, and we work our way up. And we're going through discovery of source data, discovery of requirements, design, modeling. Then we're going to design ETL, build ETL, test ETL. We're trying to manage versioning as we go along. We manage deployments into test and production, manage documentation, manage workflow. We're using a different set of tools as we do each of these steps. Even if they're all from the same vendor, there's still a suite of tools that we're having to coordinate. And sure, we can build a data warehouse this way, but it's not particularly efficient if we need to make a change. If I need to make a change to the model because the data doesn't fit, when I get to the ETL, then I have to step back down, change the model, remap or redefine the ETL mapping, rebuild the ETL, retest it. And if there's a cycle of these changes as we're trying to be iterative, then that is quite a clumsy approach. So what we try and do with automation tools is blend together these development tasks. So we still need to define a target model. We might define that on the fly, or we might model it before we start building it. But we want one place that can coordinate the management of code, generation of code for an automation tool, the management of table structures, the management of workflow, the management of documentation, the management of deployments. Bring that all into one place using one set of integrated synchronized metadata, so that, hey, if I need to add a column to a table or add a table, I can manage the create or alter of a table, generation or regeneration of code to match that change, regeneration of documentation about what did I do and how did I do it, and also any management around workflow. I can bring that all in together as a single development step. And that greatly increases my ability to make changes. I can build a prototype, I can iterate through changes with the business very, very rapidly with this kind of development tool. And that's what significantly reduces the risk of failure, because now I can engage with the business at the speed that's going to keep the business engaged. You know, they can ask for a change based on me showing them what I've built based on their requirements. I can take their feedback on board, go through some iterations, come back and show them. And that's in hours or days. Traditionally, that's weeks. And by then, the business has moved on. They've forgotten what we were talking about. Their headspace has moved on to something else. So this speed of iteration allows me to engage with the business and keep that engagement throughout the project. As we have a look at the data warehouse project, we want to try and automate as much of the entire life cycle of the data warehouse as possible. Through design, we can use common design patterns. Dimensional, you can think of type 1, type 2, type 3, type 6 dimensions, fact tables, aggregate tables, might be data vault tables. There's often a common design pattern that we want to or can apply to the design of the data warehouse. As I'm processing data, there's common code patterns for persistence, for adding surrogate keys, managing surrogate keys, for working in a staging area, for adding hash keys if I need to, if I'm building a data vault. So the design patterns, code patterns help us rapidly accelerate the build of the data warehouse and any change of the data warehouse. Because it's a metadata-driven solution, usually the automation tools, we can also use that metadata for deployment. We can use that metadata for documentation, and we can use that metadata for ongoing management of operation and production. So we're really looking across the entire life cycle of the data warehouse to look for efficiencies in building, managing, operating the data warehouse. So I strongly believe that with automation, you can have this speed of development, and you can also build out proper enterprise strength development with agility. We want to build something that's enduring. We want to build a data warehouse. That's got to stand up to large data volumes. It's got to stand up to large reporting workloads and analysis workloads. And so we want to use automation to try and build a data warehouse as quickly as possible so that we can go through a prototype and iterate approach working with the business so that we end up with the best data warehouse that we can build with the data that's available as it matches the requirements working with the business. Now, of course, building something quickly isn't just a nice way of engaging with the business and making IT feel good that they can deliver projects quickly. Of course, it costs less. We might not need so many consultants as we deliver the project. But automation also makes the development much more consistent. The code patterns that we use are going to be reused. So as I look at the code that I generate for a type 2 dimension, then I look at another type 2 dimension, it looks identical. We've automated it, and with automation comes this consistency that makes it much easier to support. We don't have to go and read through someone's 10,000 line stored procedure to figure out what's going on. The code is very consistent and very easy to read. So not only are we building with an agile approach, we're also making our lives easier as we try and support and operate this in production over a period of time. Okay, well, that's the end of my presentation. We are going to be at PASS. We are going to be demonstrating our software at PASS. I think you'll be really excited if you're having to build a data warehouse and you've always struggled with this engagement with the business, this ability to be agile. I think coming along and seeing a demonstration of how we can make that such an accelerated process without sacrificing flexibility, without black boxing anything, everything that we automate is actually pushed down into the database. It's just SQL, Transact SQL. We can push it down into on-premise or Azure data warehouse. The developer can see the code, they can edit the code. So we want to have that agility with still retaining the flexibility and the scalability that we need in order to build something that we can support and manage going forwards.
Well, Douglas, really appreciate it. This has been a great presentation. The questions so far, we don't have any as of yet, but as Douglas alluded to, he will be at PASS Summit. They will be at PASS Summit, the company, so please stop by their booth.